As we dig into our conversation about patterns, we're going to think about patterns in 4 ways. First, we'll talk about number patterns, and then rules for function tables, and then function tables and ordered pairs, and then graphing ordered pairs. Not every student across grades 3, 4, 5 might do all of these things related to patterns, but your students might do some of them, and especially these 2 things related to patterns are what students are going to be doing later in the middle school grades, so it's important to highlight them now. Let's first talk about number patterns, and to do so, I need to scram. I need to show you the whole slide here. So if we're going to help students understand number patterns, I'm first going to look at this pattern of numbers. And I'm going to look at the first 2 numbers in the pattern and determine if there might be a relationship and might be a possible rule. I could show this on my number line to show that moving from 0 to 3, I think I'm adding 3. That might be my rule. And there I could show my 3 as 3 on the number line, or I could visually show the 3 bears. Then I'm going to test out that rule of adding 3 with the next number between the second and third number. If I add 3, I move from 3 to 6. I could show 6 on my number line or the 6 bears. And then I'm going to test it out again. If I add 3 from 6 to 9, then now I'm at 9 on my number line. I can show that with my 9 bears. So I keep going until I've tested out the rule, and it works for every set of numbers in my number pattern. And here I can see that my rule, if I want to write it out, or my pattern rule, is to add 3. And then I might look to see if I see any other patterns. Do you see any other patterns here? Well, one thing that I see about this pattern is that the numbers alternate between being odd and even. So for example, 0 is even, 3 is odd, 6 is even, 9 is odd. What do I think is going to happen next? I'm going to guess we'll have an even number. Now let's do another number pattern, but this time let's draw it out. So I've got my number pattern, 0 to 6 to 12 to 18. I want to figure out what the relationship is between each set of numbers in this number pattern, and maybe I could come up with a rule. Let me go ahead and get my marker, and I'll be right with you. All right, here is my number pattern, and I want to think about a rule for each of these sets of numbers. So if I move from 0 to 6 on a number line, maybe I want to go ahead and draw a number line here just like this. So if I move 0 and I move 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that means I have added 6. I could go ahead and notate that just like that. Then if I add, I think my rule might be add 6, but what happens if I add 6 from 6 to 12? Well, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Go ahead and write my 12 right there. And I added 6 again, so that works out. Then I'll move my number line just a little bit this way. What happens if I add 6? Does that get me from 12 to 18? 12, now 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I also added 6 right there. Great job. So that gets me to 18. So I think that my rule for this number pattern is that I am adding 6. 0 to 6 I added 6, 6 to 12 I added 6, and 12 to 18 I added 6. So there I was able to draw and figure out my pattern between the numbers in this pattern. So that brings us to activity 1. Here you are going to explore different number patterns and think about how you would support students to understand these patterns. Think about some of the manipulatives you might use, or the visuals, those drawings that you might use to really help students understand these number patterns and the rules that we can see in these patterns.